Naoya Inoue versus Luis Nery, 12 rounds for Inoue's junior featherweight undisputed championship. This is for all the belts. This is on May 6th. I believe that is a Monday, early morning in Japan. Let's get into it. Let's start with the champ, Naoya Inoue. 26 wins, no losses, 23 wins by way of knockout. You know, personally, I think it's good that we're seeing Inoue stay at this weight a little bit longer and to defend his title, right? I don't think he stays in the division too much longer, especially if he wins this fight. I could possibly see him moving up to another division next year. So there are probably 2 or 3 more opponents that he might be wanting to fight in this division. You got guys like, I've heard names such as MJ Akhmadaliev, and I've heard names such as John Riel Casimero, but there are some good fights for him, right? And 126, man, you know, the higher you go up, the tougher some of these fights are. And 126 is a division that's exciting, man. So I'm sure we'll see him up there pretty soon, but that's the future. Let's go back to the present. You know, we've covered Inoue enough time to know what he can do, right? He's a complete fighter to me. He's explosive, switch hitter. He's technically sound, dynamic skill set, quick hands, good defensive fighter. And of course, we know that he can punch. He's a complete fighter. He's strong in almost every area. He's got a high IQ in the ring. He learns from his fights that may not have been going so well, right? Like a prime example of that is when he fought Nito Donaire the first time, right? That was an all-out war that both men were damaged from, bruised up from. Like those men, they left everything inside of the ring, and then they were both came away out of that fight with damages and stuff that they had to rebuild and to heal up from. Now, the second time around, it was a different story. So even though it was the same result, it was a much more dominant performance from Naoya Inoue and just a better all-around performance because he was much more defensively responsible and didn't put himself in harm's way and came in and did what he needed to do earlier than I'm sure many people expected. Now, let's talk about his most recent performance when he fought Marlon Tapales. Tapales is a good, solid fighter, man. And though he didn't get the win, he made it tough for Inoue as best as he could, right? He landed some clean shots with Inoue with the left hand. Tapales definitely had to take a measured approach to things, right? He had to be accurate. He had to fight in spurts. He had to make sure that everything that he was doing was calculated because we know once Inoue returns fire, man, there's a good chance the right shot connects with his power. That could be the shot that changes the whole trajectory of the fight. Tapales was trying to work the body, trying to slow Inoue down, but sometimes Tapales got a little too aggressive and left himself open to getting hit. Again, when you fight a guy like Inoue, you got to pick your spot. So you can't stay in the pocket too long. You can't stay in the fire too long. You got to make sure you are targeting exactly where you're trying to hit. You can't be a target practice for Inoue, right? Because he's that accurate with his shots. Sometimes he would punch straight through Tapales' high guard. Even though Tapales had that high guard nice and tight, Inoue would punch through it, or he'd find a way to come around it and move out of the way and change angles and then make it a lot more frustrating for Tapales to really figure out what the heck was going on. Inoue is he's an excellent counterpuncher, man, because he mixes variety in his shots with the power, you know, making it for a formula that's tough to handle. It can be unpredictable when you fight him sometimes, right? And he's got a good corner as well, too. They work as a team. Like one of the adjustments that Inoue made against Tapales that I think made a difference for me was Tapales would sometimes be coming in and he would duck his head down to evade the shot. And it got to a point where Inoue saw the consistent patterns in what Tapales was doing, and he would step and take a different angle and throw his punches coming up to hit him on the side of the face. It was very subtle, but I felt like it did make a difference in that fight. Now, as the fight went on, man, Inoue just sat on his punches a little bit more, and the power was starting to take its toll. He dropped Tapales in the 4th round and again in the 10th with body shots. Again, I thought Tapales fought a great fight as best as he could. He had a great game plan, but anyway, on the night, man, he was just better. Even though Tapales did have some good moments, landing that left hand cleanly, you know, it it just did not play out the way how he would have liked it to. He didn't have enough skill set. He didn't have enough tools in his toolbox to be able to combat all of the things that Inoue could do. And it got to a point where Inoue just started hitting that body a lot more. The rounds started adding it up and the shots just started to get through. He started going through the high guard, coming under the high guard, coming around the high guard. And we know, man, Inoue is an explosive guy. Like, you can't give him too much space. You can't make him comfortable and get comfortable. Inoue likes that mid-distance space, right? To lunge in and hook off on you, and he's quick enough to get out of the way. But at the same time, you have to get him to respect you, because if he does not respect the power that you have, man, he is going to pick you apart and he's going to break you down and he's going to stand in the fire because he knows you can't do anything to really hurt him or to discourage him, you know. And so Inoue is a very confident fighter, man. You got to have a great plan when you're fighting this man, because he's tough to beat already because of the physical skill set that he does have and the physical talents that he possesses. But you got to be strategic and tactical against him. You can't just have power and be Inoue. You got to put a complete fight together. But the one thing that Luis Nery can do is he does have the power to be able to make things a little bit more frustrating for Inoue, and at least for something for Inoue to respect. Let's talk about his opponent, Luis Nery. 35 wins, 1 loss, 27 wins by way of knockout. Nery is no stranger to fighting in Japan. He had a lot of success in Japan. He was also banned from fighting in Japan for failure to make weight, I believe, and he tested positive for a banned substance back in 2018, if I remember correctly, but the ban was lifted, giving him the go to compete in Japan again. When you look at Nery, he's got some solid wins on his resume. Shimizuki Yamanka, Mekjo Arroyo, Aaron Almeida, Carlos Castro, Azat Hovhannissian. Gave him a great fight in his last fight as well, too. His only loss coming from when he fought Brandon Figueroa. Stylistically, you know, Figueroa is a tough night for anybody, man, and he gives anybody problems. But Inoue doesn't have that aggressive, in-your-face, every single round type of style, type of pressure. He breaks you down and beats you in different ways. Now, when Luis Nery fought Yamanaka, whenever he let the left hand go, man, it was hurting him, especially when he would feint with the right hand and come over the top with the left. That shot, he had a lot of success with that shot right there against Yamanaka. Nery was putting everything on those shots, to be fair, as well, too. Nery got caught with a short left hook from Yamanaka that kind of, you know, almost left him, he almost hit the canvas. Right? Wobbled his knees badly, froze him in his spot, but it wasn't enough to really drop him or to really discourage him for too long. Yamanaka was able to have success when Nery was just standing there and admiring his work. Right? And he started headhunting a lot and became predictable. And Yamanaka just timed him at the right spot at the right time. And that shot connected. And man, it definitely did damage. But Nery can be predictable at times. Right? But Yamanaka's tough. Like, the man went down swinging and the ref stopped the fight. But to be fair, man, he got caught with a massive, massive shot that I'm glad that the ref actually stopped the fight, because, man, it was looking kind of ugly and it was going to get ugly. Right? Again, in the first fight, Nery landed the bigger shots, but Yamanaka fought very well all the way to the end. Now, in the rematch, it was a different story. Nery showed him no respect whatsoever. He pressured him a lot sooner, let his hands go a lot sooner without worrying what was going to come back at him. Yamanaka got dropped 3 times in the second round and they stopped the fight. Man, Nery just... Sometimes you fight someone, man, and you just got their number. This was that type of night for Nery. He just had Yamanaka's number, man, and he was able to come out of there, beat him twice. After Nery's loss to Brandon Figueroa, he fought Carlos Castro, and that wasn't the easiest fight to take coming off of a loss either. And even though on paper it was a split decision, I thought he won a wide decision victory, in my opinion. He looked sharp that night. I mean, great variation in his attacks. He was punching in combinations, and he was consistent. Nery scored a knockdown early, if I remember correctly, he can't fight the same way, man. He was coming to brawl and bang with Castro, and he can't fight that same way against Inoue, especially with that shoulder roll defense that Nery was putting forth in that position, man. Nery stayed in the pocket and he stayed in range. He stayed in the fire, but he was evasive on the night to not get hit cleanly, but I don't think you can use that type of shoulder roll defense against a guy like Inoue, man. He's going to figure that out and impose his will in the fight. But Nery likes to fight fire with fire. He fought fire with both Figueroa and Hovhannissian. Both of those fights were exciting and had a lot of punches thrown between both men, a lot of volume and pressure from both men. Nery, I felt like handled the pressure better against Hovhannissian than he did against Brandon Figueroa. When you fight fire with fire and you stand in the pocket, man, you are going to get hit, and you're going to get hit often. Hovhannissian caught Nery in the third round with a clean shot on the ropes, and Nery was on his back foot and moving around the ring trying to get out of the way. He was hurt. But he also came back and hurt Hovhannissian in the same round with a beautifully timed uppercut. Nery took a lot of punches from Hovhannissian, man, and took them right on the chin and came forward. That is, you know, he has a good chin, man. He has a good chin. Nery lost to Figueroa when Figueroa broke him down to the body. Right? He lost from a body shot, not from a headshot, because I think he's got a good chin, as I was saying. But can he take all of those punches from Inoue, a guy who has known to be vicious and brutal with the shots? We'll see on the night, of course. As we know in boxing, anything can happen. But again, I'm not expecting Luis Nery to fight in the same way as he fought Hovhannissian and Figueroa, because they are different styles. Nery was dang near fighting for his life in both fights, man. Figueroa broke down Nery and didn't just break him down physically, but seemed like he broke down his will. He was trying to fight back against Figueroa, trying to keep Figueroa off of him, right? And he just couldn't, he couldn't get any separation. He couldn't create any separation. Hovhannissian seemed like he was on that same verge of doing what Figueroa did to him. But on that night, man, it seemed like Luis Nery, man, his heart and his will kept him up, and he was able to weather the storm and found a way to get it done on the night. That was a great physical and moral victory for Luis Nery, but he did get hit a lot that night, and he looked tired, and he was hurt to the body in that fight a few times. But as I said, he was able to weather the storm and find a way to win, find a way to dig deep and get it done. I think Nery is tough, and I think he has a great shot at winning this fight, in my opinion. I think this could be a better fight than many people might think, man. So who wins? As I said, Figueroa broke down Luis Nery, right? He tired him out because he was under heavy duress every single round. It was pressure. It was a pressuring fight. While he did lose that fight, this isn't going to be the same similar fight to me, because again, fighting Inoue is a different style. It's a different puzzle that you got to try and figure out. He does bring pressure, but it's not that right in front of your face every single round type of pressure. He's going to be there, but he's more of going to use his athleticism and his skills and his IQ to pick his spots. He's going to jump in and jump out. So it's tough to defend, and you have to be careful against Inoue. You got to be tactical when you fight Inoue, because if you give him space, he'll jump in, let off combinations, and get out of range before you can let off shots of your own. And we know with him, any shot that he puts forth could be the shot that takes his opponent out. You can't give him a whole lot of space either, and that is what Nery has to do in this fight, man. I think he's going to have to take a little bit of that Figueroa style and be physical and be aggressive, but make sure that he is protecting himself, man. He's been in some close range fights, so he knows how to maneuver in those close range. But since he knows how to maneuver in those close range, man, Nery can put that same similar pressure on Inoue and see if that game plan could work in his favor. He can't show Inoue too much respect, but you got to respect him, right? He's got to fight on the inside when he needs to and take a page out of Figueroa and Hovhannissian's page and rough him up a little bit and be physical against him. I think Nery is tough, right? But he does get hurt to the body, and Inoue goes to the body very well. and he's very accurate in his shots, very precise, and he'll break down the part of the body that is hurt every single round, especially if he sees it hurt. I think this will be a good fight. I don't think this fight goes the distance, as I'm sure many of you might think as well too. I personally think someone is going to get stopped in this fight, man. But in boxing, as we know, any shot can be the shot that changes everything, and Nery does have the pop to do that. But I don't think that will be the case on the night. I like Naoya Inoue to win this fight by late stoppage. I think he'll have some problems. Nery, I think, will have some problems with the speed and the movement of Inoue and just the athleticism. I just don't think you can use brute strength to really beat him up. I think you have to do a little bit more than just try and land the right shot. You got to have a great game plan against Inoue, man. But I do think Inoue stops Luis Nery on the night. What are your thoughts on this fight? Who do you have in this one? Let me know in the comment section below. Before you go, if you're enjoying the videos, enjoying the content, man, then definitely subscribe to the channel. If you know someone that enjoys boxing, likes to talk boxing, definitely share the channel with them. Thank you again for taking the time to check out the video. And of course, we'll definitely see you next time.